Welcome back to the Hair Metal Rules podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and as always, a huge shout out to Tom Tracy Music for providing us with that killer intro music week after week. Today we have a special episode and guest lined up for you all. Joining me on the podcast today is Mr. Tommy Paris. You will remember Tommy from the Britny Fox record, Bite Down Hard. Tommy has also played with the Count 77 band for over 10 years, along with his own band, the Tommy Paris Band. Please welcome Mr. Tommy Paris to the podcast. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
My first question for you is, what got you interested in music and guitar and keyboards? What got you interested in that?
Initially it was my mom got a piano and for her to learn on, and then I took to it. I just started getting on it a lot and really fell into it, and I just there's something about it that this is before I was really listening to anything particular yet. And right. I just started figuring stuff out by ear. And then, and I just, for some reason, there was something about the piano that was really like, it was just all captivating to me. And then I took to it. So it was like I could see myself progressing on it quickly. And it just was probably an accident. It just kept going and going. But that's initially where it started, was just getting on piano when I was young.
Who were your biggest musical influences?
Wow. I had two older brothers, Kurt and Craig. They're both 2 years older than me.
Right.
Craig was 2 years older. Kurt was 4 years older. And their music that they were playing was the first stuff I got into, like The Who and Deep Purple and the Eagles and Led Zeppelin and Stones and Rush and early sort of 70s rock and roll.
I tell on my podcast, the first experience I ever had with like rock and roll music was Kiss. But that
was one of them.
I was like,
that was later. I got into later. Kiss, but that was a little bit later. Yeah.
I had an older cousin that was learning to play guitar. He was in high school. I was only like maybe 5. And of course he got the Kiss Alive album, and he would sit and listen to it and pick up the needle and try to replicate what he heard, and he taught himself how to play guitar just by ear. And that and Bad Company, that's the two records that I remember. That I'm not a big Kiss fan, that didn't propel me into the music that I love. But most of the people I talk to, you mentioned Kiss Alive, like, yep, that's when I heard Kiss Alive, that was it. Yeah, that's what got me going. So
that's what got me going too. I had a phase of Kiss. I wasn't, I tuned in around Alive, but it was because my brothers were listening to that. And then I hung around through Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, and then Alive 2.
Right.
That was my Kiss freak phase. And when I heard Alive and I heard all those explosions and everything on there, was just like, and it just captivated me. It was like, it just took me somewhere else. And that was like the summer of 76-ish, where like everybody had a killer live album. Rush had All the World's a Stage. You had Frampton Comes Alive. You had Foghat Live. Like UFO, Strangers in the Night was somewhere around there. Pat Travers, well, I think that was 79 maybe. But anyway, do you remember all those live albums that came out like at that time?
Right. So everybody,
they're all great.
I think that was a kind of a string of incidences that happened back in that time. It was a lot of live stuff that came out, and you're right. Hearing something live to me is so much better than something on a record, because you actually get to see if they actually sound like that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah. And if they don't sound like that, sometimes the way they don't sound like it, it's really cool. Like you remember Led Zeppelin, like on record, Jimmy Page would overdub a lot of guitars, but
Right.
then when you see him live and if there's only the one part, he has to pick, he sort of makes one part out of all of them, and picks the best one. But like that was still just as cool to me, even though it was different than the studio record. So yeah, exactly. So you want to hear your key moments live, but I also like to hear some variables live, that aren't on the studio record. But I hear you. Yeah, you want to hear the main vibe, the main spirit of
Right.
what you heard on the album for sure.
Because I have heard me and my wife would go to M3 every year if we can, and I get to see a lot of bands that I followed since high school, and it's neat to hear them play, and you're like, they sound exactly like what I thought they would sound like. Their live performance is 10 times better than what's recorded, and
Yeah,
you get to show off a little bit more when you're playing live. You don't have to stick to, well, this is what the record sounded like. So, but I guess I better just play that. No, I can add a little bit to it, a little bit more butter on the
yeah,
biscuit, and
yeah,
do my thing.
yeah. That's the cool part. That you can elaborate and go down some other roads that aren't on record. That's just the fun. That's the funnest part of playing live, really.
And
It's
you've played with a lot of you play with a lot of bands, and I'm not sure if we saw Count 77 a couple of years ago, and I don't know if you were playing with them at M3 at that time. Were you with them then?
yep.
That was I really enjoyed Count 77. That's the first time I'd ever heard them. I dig their sound.
Yeah, it's a fun band. I've been in the band for like over 10 years. Yeah, they're really, really fun band.
Do you tour a lot with them? I mean, do y'all do a lot of dates during the year?
Kind of limped along. We got back to it, and then now we're playing quite a bit close to the amount that we did before.
And do you just meet up with those guys wherever you're? I know it's not like the old days. You all cram in a tour bus and you travel the country. Do you guys have to like gather in certain spots and then take it from there,
Yeah,
close places?
yep.
You basically just travel on your own.
Pretty much till we get together. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. At least you don't all have to meet together and look at each other and ride hours and hours looking at one another. I guess I had read in a I had read in a book. Kip Winger was quoted, and he said that it was a lot easier and more fun touring now in this day and time than it was 30 years ago, because you had a tour manager that basically told you what to do. But now, as an artist, you can book your own things. I know you still have a management company, but they're not. You can kind of pick and choose where you want to go and what you want to do. You're not forced to, because you got a 50 date and you're not going to get out of it. Does that make sense? He said it was a
yeah.
little bit easier now, and it was a lot more fun to go out on the road and play.
There's pros and cons of all that stuff, Jeremy. And one of them is just, yeah, you could, what you just said, all that, that's true. But the other part of it, especially for me, I do my solo band and
Right.
stuff like that. I'm with 77. The more we play, the more like it's kind of like having an engine that's sitting cold and you fire it up. It takes a little while. You can't take it on the street and go full throttle for a while. Same with a motorcycle. You can't do that till the engine's had a chance to get going. And then once it's warmed up and everything's firing cool, everything oil's everywhere, everything's cool, then you can open it up. So that's my analogy to singing and
Right.
playing. It's like it's kind of like, to me, I appreciate what you said about what Kip said about touring now, and that's all true. But I also I do like going and staying out when you can. It's a lot less common now, just
Right.
because of the way things are run. But I kind of liked that 4 or 5 gigs a week grind. The traveling can be monotonous, but what happens is you're doing 5 shows a week, 4 shows a week. You're out there, you're in it, you're going, you're traveling, you're already fried. You get past being fried from traveling. Now you're just in it.
Right.
Now you're going, and you're doing show after show after show, and they get better and better and better, and my voice gets better and better and better. So that's the part that I like. I prefer that, actually, than doing the fly-ins infrequently. That's just me though, and that's the reason why.
I can see what you mean. If you know you're gonna you're on the road 7 days, 5 of them you're gonna play. I can see what you're saying. The more it's like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, and it's just you get I don't know, you just get into a grind and you're rolling, and then if somebody sees you on your 12th or 15th or 20th show, they're like, "Holy crap, man, that was," because you're
Right.
killing, man. All the little things that gotta happen, they don't quite happen right out of the gate. It sounds good, it's cool, but like, there's some things you gotta, get in line. And then by the time you've done, say 12, 15, 20 gigs, then that's when it's really fun, because that's when the band's doing the best it can. The band is kicking as much ass as it possibly can. And if it's a good feeling and knowing that you're like everything's firing on all cylinders because people are paying to come out and see you,
Right.
it's like it can't be too good.
So what's it like? What's it like to be on a stage and have thousands of people there to see you and are yelling and screaming and cheering and singing every word to the songs you're playing? What does that feel like?
It's awesome, of course, but when you're the one doing it, it's kind of, I look at it like you have a job to do.
Hmm.
You have to execute what you're there to do. So a
Right.
lot of times that stuff doesn't take front and center in my attention. It's wonderful and everything, but in spite of all that, I'm just, my head's in the game, like to do everything that I have to do to do the best, performance I can do. So sometimes I don't maybe enjoy or get to really appreciate it or be aware of it as much as someone else would be, because my head's in a different
Right.
state of mind. I'm more focused on just doing a really cool job and making it sound good and being on mark and all everything. But it's awesome. It's great. Like I said, there's nothing like it. It's hard to describe. It really is. It's half. Oh man, this is so great, and half like, oh man, we've played gigs where I've played gigs for a lot of people and didn't feel good about the set list, say, for whatever reason. And but we were playing to a bunch of people, or we played to a club, say, of 1,000 people. But I really was really stoked on where the band was and the set list and everything.
Mhm.
This is my solo stuff or in Britney, but and I can have a better time in front of the 1,000 than in front of the 10,000 or whatever it is, because I was more excited about what we were doing. Does that make sense?
Yes. Oh, sure. Do you prefer? I mean, I know it's great to go out in front of 10,000 people, but is it more is it more intimate being in front of a bar with X amount of people that's packed in there? I mean,
Um,
I guess it's two
yeah, I
different
don't.
scenarios, you know.
Yeah, they're both awesome in their way. It's like the big shows are awesome. So big shows are cool, and if you can go out and be really into what you're doing, there's nothing better than that.
I
Um,
know. Go ahead.
oh, I'm just saying, nothing's better than that. But yeah, I'm a real perfectionist, and it's never good enough, no matter how great a show goes. Even if people are going nuts and they you meet them afterwards and they love it. It's like I'll always think like, wow, I'm always constantly reevaluating. So I kind of don't get I don't get to enjoy sometimes, like, oh man, it was a great show. It's like I've had, because it's always different from what you think. So I just stopped at one point. I just stopped even considering all that, and like, I leave that kind of those kind of focused evaluations to myself, and just let it go. If somebody says, "Oh man, you guys sounded great tonight," it's like, "Oh, right on, thanks, man." Instead of, "Well, this we go." So, but it's always like that. I'm just a perfectionist, and I've never played and thought, "Oh man, that was letter perfect. Nothing could have been better than that ever." I don't think. Maybe never. Probably
Right.
never.
Um, I've read up a lot on you this afternoon before we talked. You've toured with a
I
lot
did my Jeremy.
of,
I did my jail time, and I was exonerated after four. I did 4 years. That's a joke. I'm just playing with you.
okay. I think that was blacked out. It was that was
That
like
part was, yeah,
that was top secret, and they had it blacked out. They haven't released for me to be able to read that and know that. So that's
it's been redacted.
even if it's been redacted. But you've played with a lot of people. You've recorded with a lot of people. Who's one of your favorite people that you've recorded with over the years, and like a collaboration, or who would be one of your favorites?
Probably the producer, John Purdell. John Purdell was one of two producers who produced the by Down Hard album by Britny Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And they each had their, it was Dwayne Barron and John Purdell. That was the team that produced that album. And they right before they produced that, they had produced Ozzy's No More Tears album, the
Right.
two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd done a bunch of other stuff. But John Purdell was more maybe vocal. That was his area of, vocals, and Dwayne's was more drums and guitars and stuff. So they made a great team. But so when I was doing my vocals and stuff, John was a real just a champion for any and everything. He really like he made me feel comfortable. He helped me get through some stuff. He was just a real inspiration. It's probably one of my favorite recording experiences was working with John, probably.
Well, I will tell you, speaking of Britny Fox, Bite Down Hard is my favorite Britny Fox album. Six Guns Loaded is the kind of song that you don't play it low. You turn it as loud as you possibly can till your cones in your speakers feel like they're gonna tear. Because that on my Instagram page is all about the 80s and that era. And I got a couple of guys on there that are big Britny Fox fans, and I posted Six Guns Loaded, a little video clip of it, and I had the most hits on that. People's like, man, I forgot all about that song, but you can't forget that song. You can't forget that album. Like I said, I think it's great. All the songs, you'll buy a CD. Well, back in the day, you had to buy a cassette tape, and you might like
Yeah.
one song on it. So you've
Yep.
got a whole cassette tape you just bought one song on. But luckily now you can listen to everything. But Bite Down Hard is one of those that I can listen to every song on it and be a happy guy.
Right on, man. I'm glad of that. Thank you. I'm glad you dig it.
I
That's awesome.
I listened to Wrong Side of the Tracks, and
Of the
that's
street.
a street. I'm sorry, and that's another one that reminds me of Six Guns. And you got to play it really, really loud. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's meant to be played loud. Yeah.
Meant
Some
to be
some of
played.
that's just it's what it is. It's just meant to be loud. It sounds better loud. And that's one of them. Yeah.
And so, what was your? This is how long? How long has this album been out?
About a year.
About a year. Okay. And what was your inspiration? Because listen to the songs, it goes in some different directions depending on the song. What was your inspiration for this? And um, is this your? It seems to me you've, from what I've read and what I've heard, you put a lot into this one. You wanted to make it exceptionally well. So, what was your inspiration behind this album?
I really wanted to. I had done the band where it's two guitars, bass, and drums, and the sort of metal rock type thing so much for so long that I wanted to just start from scratch and just write songs and then eventually work them into something later. But so for a while I was just writing songs. I knew I wanted to end up recording an album, but that wasn't the first goal. The first goal was just to come up with songs that I like first, that aren't trying to fit into anything at all.
Right.
They're just songs. And for that album I probably wrote over 60 songs and did little demos on them. And I had a little PC with this Reaper software in it, little software you can get, and it was just set up for demos. And I would just sit in there and not think of anything at all, just try to come up with stuff that I thought was cool. And I did that for months and months. And then it finally started. I started like I would basically record stuff I liked and then put it aside. And then I eventually had up with a CD of just these rough demos of like say 20 things. And listen to it in the car and then scratch maybe 15 of them and keep five, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally got to a point where I could start molding it into something. And I was really happy because I started molding it. I started molding it after I took that time to just kind of let myself do whatever and write whatever. And some of the stuff was pretty far reaching that I ended up writing, and I didn't include it on the album. But I liked that because I was reaching probably too far on some of it.
Right.
In fact, I know I was, and I knew I was, and I didn't quite reach it, and I knew it, but while I was reaching for stuff that I couldn't get, I thought some other good stuff came from it, stuff that I was able to get. You know what I mean? But by having to reach further than yourself, it kind of was. It was. I think it helped create the stuff that I did like, and push that further than maybe it would have if I was doing the traditional way I'd done it before.
Now, do you once you get a song and the lyrics do you use a piano to lay that out from what's in your head, like the song, how you want it to go, or do you have a lot of instruments? You just like a lot. I don't know how the recording thing works nowadays, because I know you might be in Washington D.C. and the other guy's in Florida, and he's doing this and you're doing that. But do you do all of this yourself?
Yeah, I have. Well, for this I had a electronic drum kit set up,
Right.
a piano, and my guitars and bass and stuff. And I would write on anything. I would write sometimes for a while, just writing drum beats that I thought were cool, and piano stuff I thought was cool, and then some guitar stuff I thought was cool, with no song to it at all, just
Right.
a thing, right? And just really having fun. That was a fun time, that's a real free, open time because you're not thinking about any of the business or any of the what it's supposed to fit into, any of that stuff. So that's an awesome time, that period, writing. But so I'll go past the writing part. So say I was going to like, when it came time to actually record this album, the drums were all set up in a room, mic'd and everything, and I had demo things fed to me, and so I recorded all the drums in like a 7-day period, and those were all done. And then next I would say put down rough guitars, and then I would start putting down rough vocals before I put anything else. Rough piano maybe too, no bass yet, and then start to build it that way, and then eventually put the bass on, and then mix and master and all that. But,
You got a lot of patience.
oh man, I'll tell you. Here's the thing, Jeremy. Look, I'm glad I did this album, right?
Sure.
Very, very glad I did it. But I did it, and I don't expect I'll ever do one like that again. It was a weird time that was going on. What was going on a couple years ago. So it was a weird period, and this fit right into that. So I'm glad it was good. I'm glad it was done, and I'm happy with the results. That's all that matters. But yeah, it was so laborious doing it that way, when you could show up and show your band the song in 10 minutes and have them playing it, rehearse it a little, lay it down within an hour, have the rough bed of tracks recorded, done, within an hour, one song. So yeah, next thing I want to do is a live album coming up. My solo band plays out. We're just barely getting started. But once my solo band has played a bunch of gigs, I'd like to do a live record that has some of the older tunes and then some of these new ones in it, maybe a few covers, a fun one. And that'll be a joy to record, because you come in with the multi-track already done from the show, and then you just got to mix it,
Right.
That'll be it. That'll be a fun day for me, Jeremy. My gosh.
Well, 2 years ago, back when the C word happened, people really didn't have anything to do. So I guess the creative process, I don't have anything to do. I can't go play shows. You can't travel. So I might as well take this album that's in my head and make it reality. But I think I admire you for you laid down drum tracks, you laid down guitar tracks, you laid down piano tracks. For a week, I sat here and talked to a picture on the wall to try to learn how to. I can't doing this on the fly is hard for me, but I've learned to try to put some bullet points down. and
Yeah.
talk. But I thought, I've got to carry on a conversation with somebody that I have admired for so long. I don't want to sound like duh, lose my place. I'm getting better at it. The bullet points help out a lot, but literally I sat and stared at the wall for days and days, and I would record it and I would forget what I was going to say and I would erase it and keep recording. But for you to sit and have the patience to record separate, instrumental tracks and put them all together, I admire a musician that they could do something like that, as opposed to me staring at the wall. It's funny. It's funny. Sitting in front of me is a CD insert from Count 77 that's autographed by you and the rest of the band. And that's my eye level as to who I was talking to when I was trying to practice doing a podcast. So
Right on.
it's weird. So, but it, like I said, I've followed your music for years, and it's weird when you get to see one of your heroes sitting in front of you, and that's pretty cool. You never doing something you never thought you'd do. You know?
Yeah, and it's like, and then you think, wow, I'm completely and utterly, thoroughly unimpressed with this person.
No, I'm very much impressed with you. I know I don't know you very well, but I know you're a very cautious individual. You know what you know what you want to say, and what am I trying? You are very cautious. Put it like that. And you've been in the business long enough to be cautious, because you got some guy that hits you up and said, "Hey, would you like to do a podcast?" You're like, "I don't know who you are. Because I don't know what kind of interviews you've had before, and you never know what somebody's gonna ask you or bring up, and then you're put on the spot." But my podcasts are just, I like to have fun and talk to people about the old days, because the hair metal, the glam metal from the 80s has always been very important to me, and I've always listened to that, and I don't want that music to die. But I also understand artists mature and want to do something entirely different. And just like with yourself, you've recorded a lot of stuff and recorded with a lot of people, and but you still got that rock sound. Does that make sense? You still got
Yeah,
that
yeah,
hard, you know, raise your fist in the air. So
yeah. I mean, I probably never get fully away from it because I just do what I do. I love all kinds of music, but what I do, even if I'm trying to reach for doing something new that I hadn't done before,
right.
it's still me, and I still bring me into the mix. So it's gonna sound similar. You know what I mean? It's like, um, and that's okay. That's cool. Like I said, I'm proud of all those songs from the past. It's awesome. We still play them live in my solo band. We play some of that old stuff and newer stuff and a few covers, and it's great fun. And I look back on those songs with a happy heart, because I'm proud of the work that we did for that stuff.
Well,
Uh,
I'm glad you do, because that that music, those albums, those songs. I mean, when you start playing a song from the past, and everybody out there is singing every word to it, I mean, that makes it a good thing, and makes it worth the effort you put into having to do it 30 years ago. You're still playing it. People want to hear it. People enjoy hearing it, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. It's just it's a real gift, it's a real gift. And we're right now, it's the I still to this day, because there's a lot about the business and stuff that's trying, but that's anything you're doing, because it's
Sure.
not just music,
Yeah.
but I still love to play shows. I know a lot of people that I know have been doing it for a long time too. Many of them, they don't like to travel. They don't like to do. To me, that's still just as fun as it was when I very first did it. To this
Yeah.
day, that's the best part, really. That's the part that makes the rest, that you maybe aren't so excited about. It's all completely tolerable, because it's like, I'm still into doing shows, and there's nothing like it. So if somebody like, oh man, the travel and this and that, it's like, yeah, I know, I'm still into it. I'm one of the weird ones.
Well, do you go back to places now that you went to years ago and you remember that you've been there and this do you do that a lot?
A few,
Venues?
a few. There's a lot of those venues from way back when aren't around anymore. For
Right.
example, like we played a place in New York called the Limelight.
Hmm.
It was, have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah, it was a converted church. It was massive. And
Right.
remember seeing King's X there. And then we played there. And it was just the coolest venue. That's not going anymore. A place in, I think it was in Virginia called Hammerjacks. You ever heard of
Hammerjacks,
Hammerjacks?
I've heard it. Yeah, there's a lot of videos that were filmed at Hammerjacks,
Yeah. Yeah,
80s
that was
videos. Yeah.
yeah, that was an awesome venue. There's so a lot of them are not around anymore. But yeah, going back, like we'd played my solo band just played the Whiskey a few months ago, and but I played there before with Britny Fox
Yeah.
twice, and maybe three times, but twice for sure. And that's awesome going back there. That was awesome. And yeah, just sometimes someone will bring up the name of an old venue and tell you, oh yeah, I saw you guys and they'll say the venue. So, oh yeah, that was great. And it's not around anymore. A lot of them aren't. The
Uh,
staple ones like the Whiskey and ones like that are, known, bigger type of uh historical venues
right.
are still around. But yeah, a lot of the cool ones though, yeah, they're not around anymore. But yeah, gone back to a bunch of them, bunch of new ones too, bunch of them had never been to as well.
We had back in when I was in high school, you had two places here, and they were like sisters. One was the Switch, and one was the Flaming Mug. And a lot of the '80s bands came to there. It was a little bitty small place with a stage with about four pool tables and a bar. But there were a lot of people played at those places, but they're not there anymore. Been torn down or. But that's why you just have fond memories of places and what you did there. It's like, hey, I saw so and so. There's a little bitty place used to be there. I saw so and so there back when I was 17 years old, and that's a good thing about this music is it brings back memories to you, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I think I remember the name The Switch. I can't remember exactly where it was, but the name sounds familiar. I'm not,
It was in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah.
we might have played there in 92, maybe. Was it around in 92?
Yes, it was around to probably the end of the '90s because it's just like the one in Fayetteville. It turned into a country and western bar, and I think the Switch did as well back in the late '90s. Toward the end of the '90s, and it's not even there anymore. So,
Yeah, we might have played there.
um, I got a question for you. Fun question. If you were stranded on a deserted island, what three albums would you have to take with you to listen to till you got rescued?
Sinatra live at the Sands with the Count Basie Orchestra from 1966, I believe. Uh,
Wow.
Rush, All the World's a Stage. You see, I'm not just jumping right on that third one.
Oh, I, a lot of
But
people
that's all.
when I ask that question, like, oh man, why did you ask me that? Because I listen to so many things. To pick three is a very hard thing to do. But you got two quick.
Yeah, I don't know. That third one's tough. Because then that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say. For maybe some kind of classical album.
You like a lot of classical music.
I like all kinds of music.
Kinds of
All
music.
kinds, Jeremy. You name it. I like it. I like something in almost every genre.
Okay.
Some genres less. I like less in a particular genre, but I usually find something in a genre that I like. At least a couple things. It's
I've
stuff
been
people wouldn't expect me to listen to.
I've been me and my wife. We rent an apartment and we found a house to rent, and me and my father-in-law been doing some painting, and we've actually been listening to yacht rock radio on, and there there's so many cool songs on there because I was like 5 or 6 when the majority of these songs came out, but yet I I know who sang them, I know the words to them, and it's kind of a slower pace, laid back kind of station, or I listen to Octane or Hair Nation. I listen to that a lot. So I guess I'm stuck in the '80s. I'm okay with that.
Hey, nothing
The
wrong
'80s,
with that.
it's a great era to grow up in my opinion. And it's just a lot of fun bands and the whole MTV thing. I think if it wasn't for MTV and the Headbangers Ball, a lot of bands would have never, because you didn't know what people looked like unless you got Metal Edge magazine or Rip magazine. You didn't know what these people looked like, and you didn't turn on the radio and hear Britny Fox or Rat or Warrant until MTV came along, and then the radio picked up things and started playing a lot of stuff. So then it just kind of just blew up after that. So,
Yeah, I remember at the very beginning of MTV when there were no commercials and there were only music videos for a couple of
yes.
years.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. It was such a, I mean, they've always had bands and artists filmed and shown on television, but this was different. It was like just round the clock. I mean, you'd have to watch a show or variety show or something to see the artist you wanted to see. They're in the show, but they're not for the whole time. So, but this
Right.
was like the back to back to back, no ads and
No.
no shows because it started having like shows later. This was just
Yes.
complete music back to back. So awesome. I remember that period. It was incredible. It was like a lot of people say, "Oh man, I wish I'd grown up in the '80s." And it's like, yeah, we were in the middle of it. We were. It was what was going on, and we were deep in it, and didn't even realize about a lot of it. Had no idea what the hell we were doing. We were just deep in it and going for it and screaming from the mountaintop and trying to be involved. You know what I mean?
But that's what the '80s were all about, and the whole uh, hard rock, hair metal, the whole genre. I mean, it was awesome to see, like watching the Headbangers Ball on Saturday night. It was awesome to watch that because they would you know introduce somebody, and it's the only time you got to see a Britny Fox. It's the only time you got to see Girl School or Long Way to Love, or and I always I always enjoyed it. I wish they would rerun all the old Headbangers Balls from the '80s and just watch them all over again. I think it would be cool to do that. So,
Yeah. It's
Mr. Mr. Parrish, you're a very interesting man, and I admire all the stuff you've done over the years. And seems like your new album, you you put a lot of effort into it, and you went in directions that I think that you had in your head you wanted to go, and you went with them. Said because you said you had a lot of songs, and you would have some scratch them. I'm gonna go with these, and who does your band tour a lot around, or will you start touring a lot?
we just got started. The
Okay.
Whiskey Show was the first show.
Okay.
So right now it's economically kind of tough to get a new because by all intents and purposes it's a new act. You know,
Oh,
um,
yes.
I mean it's a new act as far as the billing goes. We just go out as my name, and
Right.
so there's some interest from the Britny Fox stuff. So we play some of that material, for
Mm-hmm.
that. But so it's a new marquee that's out. So it's untried and untested. So, and this economy right now is not really lending for people to take a chance on a group that's not tried and true that comes around every year. So, but it's making headway, and I got a great band. The guitar player I have plays in Leather Wolf, and he actually plays also with, believe it or not, one of your yacht rock bands, Player, Baby Come Back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when
Wow.
they tour, Rob plays with, his name's Rob Math.
Yeah,
He
Rob
plays,
Math. Yeah.
yeah, Rob Math. He's a
Okay.
guitar player. Yeah, he
Yeah.
plays with Leather Wolf and Player, and yeah, they're just a great band. Um,
So he goes
JJ
from
Garcia.
he goes from Tommy Paris to Hideaway by Leatherwolf to Baby Come Back. That's a trip around the world there. I actually heard Baby Come Back on Yacht Rock Radio today, as a matter of fact.
Did you? Yeah. Well, he's an awesome player because he can do as much. He could play Randy Road leads note for note if he wants to. He could also play country if he felt like it. I don't know that he particularly feels like it, but he's and of course he can play and player, with that style, and
Yeah.
he can be as metal as you ever would want a guitar player to be, but he can also do all this other stuff. So he's just a really phenomenal, rounded talent. JJ Garcia is my drummer, and Bobby Pizzafiaro is scratch edit that, and Bobby Pizzaferato is the bass player. He's got an awesome voice. Rob has an awesome voice too, and yeah, it's fun. But like I said, we're just getting rolling, so it's an ongoing process. But I'm looking
Well,
forward to getting back out again. Yeah,
well, I hope it keeps rolling and maybe you'll come near North Carolina at some point in time. That'd be great.
absolutely. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love to.
I definitely be there to see you.
Right on, man.
Well, I hope you had fun with
Yeah,
this. You
yeah.
know, I enjoyed meeting you. I told my wife, I was like, I've talked to a few people, but I said, I'm really nervous about talking to Tommy. I don't know why, but I'm just nervous, but it wasn't so bad. It was fun.
You go, man, because I hear he's a real asshole, this guy.
No, I have never heard that about you. I've just heard that you were a kind of. I've always heard you kind of to yourself. You you have your own way of doing things. I've never heard anything bad about you whatsoever. But I've communicated with you before. You sent me a badge because I mailed you something in the mail and it got wet, and
Oh, okay.
you
Yeah.
sent me a badge that you autographed about a year and a half ago, and you know
Okay. Yeah.
I thought that was. I told my wife, I was like, he actually sent me a laminate badge that he signed. I think that's just so cool. So,
Right
and
on.
and you know, I said I'm gonna take a chance and see if he would do a podcast because you never know the people that you think would do one won't do it, but the people that you don't think they will, it's like I said, I'm just having fun with this. You're really the second only big person that I even talked to, and it's a thrill. I talked to. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Midnight Devils, but I talked to the lead singer of the Midnight Devils a week ago. So he's
Right on.
I'm gonna post him, and it was a lot of fun. But you get nervous when you see somebody's face pop up there, but you're human just like I am, and if you ever see somebody smile, or you're doing all right, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. You were doing the same thing with your recording yourself talking and then scratching it, going back, scratching. That's exactly what I was doing with these songs. Exactly. It was just
Right.
songs.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. So it's a trial and error, and really, like, you know, uh, it probably you never say, okay, it's done. I'm there. I'm good now. It's always going to be something that you're striving for to do better, or you know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, it was the same process. You know exactly what it was like to write those songs, because that's exactly the process. Just do it, hear it, critique
Yeah.
it, throw it away. Do it, hear it, critique it, throw it away. So,
Because every
you
time
know,
every time I put one together, I try to do something a little bit different that I think makes it a little bit better. So maybe by the time I talk to about 20 people, maybe I'll think it's good, but I'll be like you and be like, no, it was good, but it can always be better.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And that's a good, yeah, you get 20 of them in the can, and
Yeah.
then you're like, now you're there for whatever that means, because that'll mean what it means to you, not to anyone else. You'll know, though. You'll know
Right.
where you're at. You're like, yeah, got 20 of those in the can. Now moving on into the 30s and 40s. Yeah, it's just the process. And then hopefully along the way, I always tell people it's like, life's short. So hopefully along the way, with whatever you're striving for, whether it's what you're doing, what I'm doing, or whoever, whatever, you have a few laughs
Right.
along the way, at least, because
You
that's
gotta
all
have
you got, really. That's all
you,
you got.
you gotta have fun with it, because if it's not fun, it's really not worth doing, in my opinion. As long as you enjoy doing what you're doing, then that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, you can't lose with that. That's a good
That's right.
that's a good winning combination. If it gives you a few laughs, you're on track. That's all you need to worry about.
Well, Mr. Paris, I've took up enough of your time, and I do appreciate you doing the podcast with me. And It'll sound good. And I know your merchandise is on globalessentialmarketing.com. Well, I do
Yes.
appreciate it, sir, and it was a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to talk to you, Jeremy.
And good luck on the road. And I hope you get lots of gigs and even doing some Count 77 too. So I hope you stay busy.
Right on, man.
You take
I
care.
appreciate
Okay?
it. All right, bro.
God bless you,
Cheers.
sir.
You too.
Bye-bye,
Have a
sir.
good one, Jeremy. Take care, brother.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
I appreciate you listening to the most recent podcast episode. I sincerely appreciate Mr. Tommy Paris for taking the time to speak with us in an interview today. Tommy has a lengthy history and has made numerous musical contributions to the entire 80s genre. I hope you will visit his website, globalessentialmarketing.com, where Tommy's music and merchandise are available. Tommy's recently released album, Erthearz, is quite remarkable. He has clearly put his all into it, and it is evident. I want to play a few tracks from the album before we wrap up the podcast. Here's Wrong Side of the Street and Love Me to the Final Day.
Quick to cut my eyes. I see the girls, I see the guys. I don't know where you will go. I can't see where you will be. But we're on the wrong side of the street. Wrong side of the street. Oh, no. In galaxies, space brain night. Kaleidoscope, kingpins for life. I can't see where you will be. I can't know where you will go. I can't see where you will be. I don't know where you will go. But we're on the wrong side of the street. Wrong side of the street. Wrong side of the street. Yeah.
Listeners, I appreciate your support and hope the things we discuss on the show bring back some great memories. Please do me a favor on all the platforms that you see the podcast posted. Please leave a rating or feedback because that's the only way I'm going to know what I'm doing wrong and how to get better. I want to make it a good podcast that people come back and listen to each time and look forward to listening to. Until next time, keep rocking and stay tuned for more shows filled with exciting guests and talk about your favorite hair metal bands and your favorite music. Until next time, so long and God bless you all.